Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the 700 Club. Once a special prosecutor is appointed, they have virtually unlimited license to go hunting after anybody they want to. Why an official in the Justice Department called for one of those and put Mueller in that position, I never know. But it was a terrible thing. I don't think he's going after Trump because he can't get him. Trump, frankly, is unassailable, and from what I understand, Mueller is not going after Trump. But he sure did stick it to Manafort, Paul Manafort, who was a fixture in Washington. They're getting him for something that he did years ago, and the fact that this guy can go delving into records for decades back, I think, is a travesty. But nevertheless, he's loose. And now he's talking about going after the brother of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. So Podesta, and Podesta is a well-known fixture. And what is the charge? The charge is they didn't register as agents of a foreign government if they were doing work for them. And this is a charge that has seldom been brought, and it's resulted, I think, in one conviction over the years. But that doesn't mean that these people won't have to spend millions of dollars and have their reputation assailed.
Yeah.
And,
that's Podesta is the brother of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. Right?
That's right, Tony Podesta, and he is a fixture in Washington. He's very rich, has a villa in Italy and a lovely apartment or house in Washington. He's made a lot of money, and he gives away a lot of money. And there's nothing really wrong with that. He's a fixer, and he's represented some of the same people that Manafort.
Yeah.
But it used to be in the old days, it was Black, Manafort, and Stone. They were the three power brokers during the Bush administration. And Roger Stone, I don't know what in the world he's doing, but he's been somewhat discredited. I don't know where Black is these days. He was a consultant, but Paul Manafort has been a fixture forever, and Trump wanted him during the convention because he was good at assembling delegates. He put him in as chairman of his campaign, but he was in for a short period and then came out. So I don't know.
So he is President Trump's former campaign chairman, and he's now facing a 12-count indictment. Eric Rosales brings us the story from Washington.
The first charges from special counsel Robert Mueller were outlined in this 31-page indictment as part of the ongoing investigation of Russian interference in the election. In Mueller's crosshairs, Paul Manafort, President Trump's former campaign chairman, and deputy campaign manager Rick Gates. Both men arrived for their first federal court appearance Monday, where they pleaded not guilty to all charges. The 12-count indictment details Manafort's lobbying work in Ukraine and what prosecutors claim was a scheme to hide money from tax collectors and the public. The indictment states Manafort used his hidden overseas wealth to enjoy a lavish lifestyle in the United States without paying taxes on that income. Authorities say Manafort laundered more than $18 million. Gates is accused of transferring more than $3 million from offshore accounts. The two are also charged with making false statements. Kevin Downing, who represents Manafort, called the indictment against his client ridiculous.
President Donald Trump was correct. There is no evidence that Mr. Manafort or the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government.
It's important to note the indictment makes no mention of President Trump or election meddling. Manafort has repeatedly denied collusion, including his time as Trump's campaign chairman.
Are there any ties between Mr. Trump, you or your campaign, and Putin and his regime?
No, there are not. It's absurd, and there's no basis to it.
Separately, one of President Trump's early foreign policy campaign advisors, George Papadopoulos, pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about meeting with a professor who had ties to the Kremlin. Papadopoulos told agents the conversation happened before he joined Mr. Trump's campaign, when in fact it occurred afterward. Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders held firm to the White House stance of no campaign collusion.
We've been saying from day one there's been no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and nothing in the indictment today changes that at all.
Both men are under house arrest, with Manafort's bond set at $10 million and Gates at $5 million. The president's Twitter response pointed in another direction, writing, "Sorry, but this is years ago, before Paul Manafort was part of the Trump campaign. But why aren't crooked Hillary and the Dems the focus?" Sarah Huckabee Sanders ended her White House briefing stating the real collusion scandal has everything to do with the Clinton campaign and the Washington strategic firm Fusion GPS and Russia, claiming there is clear evidence of them colluding to spread disinformation and smear the president. Eric Rosales, CBN News, Washington.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I said it yesterday, I say it again. We're facing an existential threat from the North Koreans, who are getting nuclear weapons that could reach the United States of America. We then would face nuclear blackmail. The Iranians are trying to build a nuclear device that might threaten Israel and the Middle East. We have trade issues here in this United States with China and other countries that are very important. We're trying to get tax relief for the American people. We need a health care overhaul because Obamacare is seriously broken. We have a debt of $20 trillion plus that are weighing heavily on all of us. We have domestic problems, we have overseas problems, and to be wasting our time on this business about what did the Russians do in the past election, who cares? It really doesn't matter. And I think the intelligent people in America would be just as relieved if Trump said, I'm going to pardon everybody that has any suspicion of anything having to do with Russia. They get a blanket pardon from me now or in the future, and that would shut this thing down. There was an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal suggesting just that very thing. But the American people say the President of the United States has got to be free from these annoyances so he can run the country. We have crucial issues that face all of us as Americans, and we need help. And the fact that these Russians did or did not get involved or talk to somebody along the way is really, well, it's just not very consequential. But by Rosenzweig putting on a special counsel without the permission of the president, the Attorney General had recused himself, so this the Deputy Attorney General made this decision and then gave broad powers to this special prosecutor. Trump, obviously he works for Trump, and Trump could scale him back, but something's got to be done. You cannot have somebody with a fishing expedition, an unlimited checkbook, going after everybody he can get his hands on and bringing down all this publicity. We, as Americans, have got to do something better. And it's key we do it. And I think, you know, I see some of these Democrats saying, well, we want to pass a law that says he can't change the special prosecutor. Well, the special prosecutor was put in place by a person who reported to Trump. He was one of Trump's team, if you will. And I think he did the president a great disservice. And if it was me and any other business, I would have fired him in a heartbeat. But Trump, you know, didn't do that. But the time's got to come that he says, this is enough, we've got to shut this thing down. I hope and pray that that's what the result's going to be, although there'll be a great outcry by the Democrats that he should do it, but he's got every right to do what he has, because he's president of the United States. We need a strong leader to bring us through these crises that we're facing. Well, in other news, could we see big changes in the role Islam plays in Saudi Arabia? Amazing. John Jessup has that.
Thanks, Pat. The question some are asking is, can Saudi Arabia be reformed? The country's future leader says he hopes so, but as Dale Hurd reports, that's likely much easier said than done.
Saudi Arabia's young crown prince wants to bring a kinder and gentler Islam to the desert kingdom. But trying to make it happen could be not only tough, but dangerous. Since coming to power, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has been trying to move Saudi Arabia away from Wahhabism, a literal version of Islam so repressive that it's compared to the ideology of ISIS. Many call it a source of modern Islamic terrorism. The prince's reform plan is part of a program called Vision 2030, intended to remake the Saudi economy and society and to construct a futuristic economic district along the Red Sea coast, costing $500 billion. But reforming Wahhabism will be a major challenge. It's been Saudi Arabia's dominant brand of Islam since its beginning. Apostasy is punishable by death. Women have few rights and only just recently gained the right to drive cars. The open practice of Christianity is illegal. Public beheadings have been routine. Crown Prince Mohammed told the London Guardian newspaper he will return Saudi Arabia to moderate Islam and open the country to all religions.
Only want to go back to what we were, the moderate Islam that is open to the world, open to all the religions.
Mohammed is said to have already sidelined Wahhabi religious leaders who enforce the kingdom's extreme form of Islam. And he believes demographics are on his side.
70% of the Saudi people are less than 30 years old. And quite frankly, we will not waste 30 years of our lives in dealing with extremist ideas. We will destroy them today.
But danger abounds. The last time social reform was attempted in 1979, militants seized the Grand Mosque for 15 days and called for the overthrow of the House of Saud. Hundreds died before commandos reclaimed the site. The same hardline spirit that resisted reform almost 40 years ago is still strong in Saudi Arabia today and could fight to prevent the kind of change the prince wants to bring. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. Pat, back to you.
Well, when Ibn Saud was a territorial chieftain fighting to get control of what became Saudi Arabia, the name Saudi is after Saud, it was Arabia. And he teamed up with the extreme Wahhab people who practice an extreme form of Mohammedanism or Islam, and they helped put him in power. And there's been that relationship ever since. The secular people run the country, and they turn the religious stuff over to the Wahhabis. And to take that away, to me, is going to bring about a revolution and very possibly a threat on the Crown Prince's life. I think they would try to assassinate him, and every time he turned around, there would be some assassin in some dark alley waiting to gun him down. So I think that's what it'll bring about it. And the House of Saud has been very reluctant to do anything against the Wahhabis because they have supported the monarchy. And the monarchy rests again on a small family that run a big country that has all kinds of people in it and is under assault by the Iranians and the Shias who would like to take power. So, you know, it's a cauldron, and to step into that, I mean, he's a very courageous man, but it might cost his life. John?
Pat, a federal judge has blocked most of President Trump's policy banning transgender Americans from serving in the military. The president announced the policy in a tweet last July. He also said the military would not pay for transgender surgeries and later issued a formal presidential memorandum giving the Department of Defense 6 months to implement the new rule. Several transgender military personnel sued to block the policy, and for the most part, the judge agreed, but he allowed to leave in place the provision of not paying for surgeries. There are an estimated 2,500 transgender service members on active duty. Pat, back to you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, you've got a district court judge who was appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate. These judges are issuing decrees that affect the entire United States. I don't think that our Constitution ever intended for a single district court judge to have enough power out of Hawaii or the District of Columbia or wherever they're sitting to make changes in the entire policy of the United States and to overrule the decrees of the elected president. There's something wrong with this, but they have taken power that I don't think the Constitution gave them. And I think it's time for Congress to delineate. Congress can withdraw the appellate jurisdiction of anything it wants to, according to the Constitution. And I think there's something wrong with the system where a tiny jurisdictional district court judge can suddenly reach out and say, well, I'm going to control the entire United States of America. It's wrong. Now, there's some good news about the confirmation of one particular judge, and let's hear about that from John.
Well, Pat, the Senate has confirmed Amy Barrett of Indiana to be a United States judge for the 7th Circuit. Barrett made headlines during her confirmation hearing when California Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein raised concerns over Barrett's Catholic religious beliefs, telling the nominee, quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." Republican senators joined Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell ahead of Barrett's confirmation vote to say they think Feinstein's comments were unacceptable and unconstitutional.
We stood pretty low if we start to raise questions of religious belief before somebody can serve on the federal judiciary.
And the Republican senators say they're speaking out against these questions now because they fear they're becoming part of the new normal. Well, another big accomplishment for the Regent University School of Law, it had the highest rate of passage for the bar exam out of all Virginia law schools in July this year. More than 94% of Regent alumni passed the Virginia bar. That's higher than the 92% from the University of Virginia, the nearly 85% from Washington and Lee University, and the 79% from George Mason University and the University of Richmond. Law School Dean Michael Hernandez attributes the success to what he calls the team effort of Regent School of Law. And Pat, along with the moot court success, a lot of big wins for Regent University School of Law.
Well, we're delighted because that bar passage, Virginia has the 3rd hardest bar in the United States. Its first is New York, then California, then Virginia, as I understood it. And so a professor named Randy Singer, who has written a bar course, and I think he's teaching that the big thing about that bar is that you've got to deal with every question. If you write and write and write on one question, you get marked down. And so these people have to get trained as to how to take the bar. And Regent is beginning to concentrate on that. And this win, #1 in the state, is a big deal. And I congratulate Dean Hernandez and the team there at Regent. And it's just one more success. Regent is now, and I say this advisedly, it is the fastest growing university in the entire United States of America. And the statistics are enormously skewed toward what Regent is doing. So the Lord has blessed this school, and the accomplishments of the graduates are just tremendous. But they're up against the University of Virginia, Washington and Lee, George Mason, William & Mary, University of Richmond, et cetera. And that was a great win, so we congratulate them.